Hello all, James here. Now, unfortunately for everybody, the court case Vince McMahon has dodged any and all punishment for, in this case, has nothing to do with Janel Grant, which looks destined to be dragged on until the end of time. The crime that Vince McMahon has avoided all punishment for all intents and purposes, is still actually a very serious one, and to say he got a slap on the wrist would be putting it mildly. But first, let's remind ourselves of the initial charge. So here we go. I want to actually just leave the crashed up car there. That's Vince McMahon's, I think, 2024 Bentley GT Continental there. Now, former WWE CEO Vince McMahon was charged with reckless driving in Connecticut after he was involved in a 3-car accident that severely damaged his vehicle. Now, the accident occurred on the Merritt Parkway in Westport, Connecticut on the morning of July 24th, according to a state police report obtained by USA Today Sports. Now, this is the SPN website, but that's by the by. According to the report, McMahon was driving northbound on Route 15 when he collided with the rear of another vehicle and then crashed into a median wooden beam guardrail. Another vehicle was driving southbound on the route and collided with debris, this is a quote, projected over the centre median from McMahon's vehicle. No injuries, amazingly, were reported. I don't know if it says it in my blurb here, right, but it says that Vince McMahon was going 90 miles an hour. Or it was claimed he was going 90 miles an hour at the time of the crash. And we're going to get into, in a second, just how bad of a driver Vince McMahon is from people who worked with him and actually drove with him and had to be, unfortunately, a passenger with him as well. But unbelievably, no injuries were reported and there were no passengers in any of the affected vehicles. All vehicle airbags were deployed in the crash, and TMZ was first to report, of course they were, the accident and posted photos of McMahon's damaged Bentley. Now, McMahon was issued a misdemeanor for his reckless driving and following too closely, resulting in an accident. He was released on $500 bond, this guy. Keep in mind, he's worth probably about $3 billion or something like that at this point. And he was ordered to appear in Stamford Superior Court August 26th. Well, actually, as I record this is October 18th, and this all happened October 17th, when he was actually in court. Now, McMahon... initial reports actually stated that once again no one was injured at the crash, but one of the women who he crashed into, I've only got the surname here because I lost the first name, I'm sorry. Her surname was Mrs. Doran, we'll call her, shared that she had been experiencing a stiff neck and has undergone a full battery of tests. Here's her quote. Lucky to have survived a horrific car crash on the way up to catch the ferry to Martha's Vineyard last Thursday morning. Both cars totaled. Vince McMahon, at Mr. McMahon, so it was nice that she tagged him in this social media post. Former chairman of WWE, of course, hit me going 80, 90 miles per hour at the back, I guess, as I drove in the right lane of the narrow Merritt Highway built in the 1930s. I and the dog are mostly fine, so there you go, there was a passenger, but was lucky to have kept control of the car, more or less, as I shot off the road after being catapulted over 100 yards. An unmarked state trooper had been following him, so he was driving so badly in the run-up to this as well, that he was being followed as he sped in and out of cars down the highway and had just turned on his lights on to pull McMahon over, but he was not in time. Both front wheels of McMahon's Bentley were sheared off and his airbags deployed, probably saving him from significant injury. The trooper told me afterwards that McMahon saw me last minute and swerved, smashing into my left rear, but that if he had hit me full on, there might have been a very different ending for me. Amazing that no other cars were hit and that I got out of the car, hands shaking for a good 20 minutes, but otherwise seemingly unscathed. But a stiff neck later, etc., full battery of tests, hospital scans and blood work, time will tell, I am told. And oddly, this actually happened around the same time, because it was a morning time, I believe, that Hulk Hogan had died as well. I mean, it's just not that it's massively odd, it's just one of those things where one thing was happening with a major wrestling figure, and another thing was happening here. So we're going to go to what actually happened yesterday in court. This is from Cage Side Seats. Vince McMahon, I nearly automatically defaulted to Mr. McMahon there, but Vince McMahon is a very happy man after today's big win in court. Basically, he got off with this. He caused a 3-car pileup by driving at speed and got off scot-free. So, once again from Cage Side Seats. Former WWE CEO Vince McMahon appeared in court today in Stamford, Connecticut for the latest hearing on his reckless driving case stemming from a late July crash that caused multiple cars to be totaled. We've all got that. Anyway, today's court ruling was a win for McMahon, who did not have to enter a guilty plea. I don't even get that. I mean, how can you be like driving recklessly at speed and not even have to turn in a plea? Just the judge is just like, well, there's theories about why the judge might have looked at McMahon and said, you're fine, don't worry about it. Scuffled his weird hair up and say, go on, off you go, son. You're a good kid. Enjoy the show. He has accepted into a pre-trial probationary program where the charges will be dropped in 1 year, October 15, 2026, if he donates 1,000 clams to charity following traffic laws and basically doesn't crash again. And even if he does crash, he probably won't be punished at all. Vince McMahon's lawyer, Mark Sherman, said his client was grateful after the ruling was issued. I bet he was. Today, the judge granted our motion to suspend and dismiss the case. It will be dismissed in 1 year, fully expunged, no guilty plea, and look, not every car accident is a crime. But he was sort of contravening the laws of the road by speeding and swerving in and out of traffic, so there you go. The judge recognised that there is a path here for dismissal, and that's what happened here. This was an accident, again, it was an accident that he caused. I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but, According to the New Haven Register, McMahon did not speak in court. He didn't answer questions from the media, but he did sign some autographs and take some pictures with fans before taking off in a waiting Cadillac SUV, hopefully at a reasonable speed, which is actually a Cage Side Seats editorial there. Now, I just want to make mention of this, is that this is just how powerful Vince McMahon is. He can cause a 3-car pileup, cause a load of damage. It was definitely his fault. A state trooper was following him, witnessing the entire thing, and he gets nothing for it. I think this is why Vince McMahon is like overly confident. Apparently this isn't even the first time he's, been in trouble with the law, and they basically just patted him on the botty and just sent him off on his way. Oh, go on, off you go. Once again, he's like the luckiest dude in the world when it comes to run-ins with the law, which is why I'm wondering maybe he's going to be overly confident, and maybe not even overly confident, that if he does go to trial, civil court with Janel Grant's team, that he'll probably just think he's just going to get away scot-free, and he may well do as well. He just seems to be one of those people that nothing sticks on him, apart from if it's, shit from his arse after allegedly crapping on his girlfriend and he has to go take a shower. Anyway, one more thing that everybody seems to be noticing here, once again, is Vince McMahon's hairdo, which is hard not to notice. One person... we're going to get to this bit, actually, before we talk about Vince McMahon's curious appearance. One person within WWE reportedly noted that Vince McMahon is still widely hated by almost everyone backstage due to how much of a detriment he was to the product. That's from, of course, Wrestling Observer newsletter. Here's the thing. 100 people turned up to his birthday party with the knowledge that they had to sign non-disclosure agreements so they couldn't ever talk about it. I'd say he's not as hated as the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which a lot of people have been suggesting went into overdrive with anti-WWE hit pieces. I don't know about that, but certainly that seems to be something that I don't know is fully true. That, nearly universally hated. I don't know. And to be honest, after he left, WWE seemed to be doing even better at the time. Anyway, I've got something else. Here we go. Vince McMahon, how he's looking now. I don't know if he's had even more work. If you just see that compared to this was from the 14th and I studios that he'd obviously just bought those stick-ons from Amazon, plonked it on a wall, and it was kind of a last-minute rush job thing, because that was from the documentary Hulk Hogan, the TMZ documentary that kind of was rushed out, and actually was actually quite good for what it was, considering it was sort of done at speed. And he was interviewed remotely for Hulk Hogan. Anyway, here, he looks terrible. He looks like a dropped pie. He really does. His face looks awful. And then a few ones later here, I've been saving random stuff here. This is Vince McMahon now, where he seems almost like he's been made out of plasticine, yet he still has... He looks like an Aardman Animations character here, like not a wrinkle on that. That's loosely described as a head. A lot of people have been saying he looks quite a lot like with his white front kind of thing going on, Sputnik Monroe, which that's a look that was last sort of popular in the early 60s in the Memphis area. And I personally believe that he looks more kind of like a badger's arse, is what I've been terming it to people who've been sending me this post, and that's basically what I've said every time. But once again, Vince McMahon at the end of it, still, once again, Wrestling Observer News, like I said, universally hated. Yet somehow, I didn't even know he was going to be in court. I generally sort of keep up with these things. Some fans found out, and he took photos with the fans outside, including one dude who turned up in a suit, but then sewed on a WWF, like the old 80s blocky logo on it as well. But yeah, a few people got autographs and photos with him. So there you go. But once again, that's sort of a clearer image, actually. He doesn't look quite as impossibly smooth in that one. But once again, it's like his jowls have been tucked in a little bit. I mean, he must have done an awful lot of plastic surgery, I guess, to get into that point. Because he looks actually better than he's done in a few years, especially with that TKO mustache. When TKO was merging, UFC, WWE merging, and he had that sort of white, snidely whiplash mustache and a silk purple do-rag in some photos as well when they were outside Wall Street. But once again, is Vince McMahon a terrible driver? Well, apparently, yes. This is from people I've heard and also people I've worked with over the years. Dutcher said he was a terrible driver, never was actually in the car with him, but he'd be screeching out of arenas, that kind of thing. Stevie Richards said the exact same thing. He's basically a terror on the road, has been for decades. Jim Cornette said the long list of people who would refuse to ride with Vince driving include me and Jim Ross. Jim Ross told Vince, I love my children and want to see them again. So he'd never get back in the car with him. I'd like to hear Bruce Pritchard's opinion on Vince McMahon's driving, if indeed he's given it publicly yet, because I believe he used to be a passenger in his car quite a lot. Jim Ross said this on a recent episode of Grilling JR. Yeah, he craves the speed. Well, actually, he said the first thing he'd do was make sure the car had a seatbelt, of course. Yeah, he craves speed and adventure, and sometimes on an interstate, speed's not the way to go. So that's just his nature. He likes adventure, and that's the wrong place to put your adventure on a busy highway. But that was one of the things that when I rode with him the first time or two, I didn't realise he loved speed that much. But he does, and he did. But his second chances are starting to run out. Well, apparently not, because he's just did a huge crash and then he's got away with it scot-free. He wasn't even physically injured in any way. Once again, Bentley's, but in any event, I'm glad nobody got hurt. That's really the main thing. He's got his insurance up his arse, and he's got money to repair the rears on those things, but etc. You know what the kind of thing is. Once again, a story that I heard about Vince McMahon is back in the day in the 90s or 2000s, he went down the wrong way on a one-way street to get to Madison Square Garden, and when he was pulled over by police, he actually said, I'm Vince McMahon, damn it, and the trooper or the policeman just went, all right, and just let him go. Off he went. So once again, he's famous for getting away with things, legally speaking, including anything he does wrong on the road, which apparently is a lot of things. And once again, typical of Vince McMahon, I don't know in this latest instance, but always blaring out AC/DC to sort of decibels that would cause tinnitus and permanent hearing loss. So there you go. That's the video. Vince McMahon once again gets away scot-free, and I will catch you for the next video, which I think might be Monday, so I'll see you then.